Good morning, class. Welcome to this session of International Business Environment. In our last class, we were discussing regarding some of the economic indicators through which we analyze the economic environment of other countries. And we were discussing regarding gross national income, human development index, and purchase power parity. And we had discussed how these measures would help us in understanding the economies of different countries in different ways and why is it useful for a manager or a entrepreneur. Now the next one is economic stability and inflation. Now what do you mean by economic stability or inflation? Yes, what is stability? Stability is nothing but being constant. Yes, being the same for some period of time. Now, economic stability is necessary from the viewpoint that maybe the measures that are being taken by our organization or companies need quite some times to start, take the actions and get the results. Okay, and whenever you go to some other countries, maybe the economic stability is very much necessary. Yes, what is regarding inflation? What do you mean by inflation? What happens for the purchasing power of a currency when inflation increases more and more? See, now regarding economic stability and inflation, whatever explanation is necessary, it would be given in handout. Yes, but there are some other things what you will have to know. Now, when there is inflation, what happens? What is the main feature of inflation? Inflation, the price starts on increasing. Yes. So when price increases, what happens for the purchasing power of currency? See, purchasing power parity is entirely different. Okay. Purchasing power is nothing but how much can you buy with 1 unit of currency. It could be any currency. Now, whenever there is inflation, the purchasing power of that currency starts going down. Yes, that is to tell, might be today you could buy 10 kgs of rice with 100 rupees. Now, when there is inflation, the price increases. So, after inflation, maybe you would not be able to buy 10 kgs of rice. Maybe you can buy only 8 kgs. Yes, the purchasing power is being decreased. And one more thing regarding all these things, there are surveys done. So you'll have to know what is economic stability and inflation. The rest you'll have to write on your own. Okay. Now speaking regarding that, okay. Now here what they're trying to tell is economic stability is very much important. Maybe for the country in which they are doing business and especially the economic stability of the country for which they are planning to move. Okay, and in understanding economic stability, inflation is one such indicator which helps a lot to understand the stability of economy. Okay, usually what happens with inflation? Does government takes any measures to curb this inflation? Okay. Usually what happens is that with inflation there would be more demand for money. Is it so? Why? Because Now you need more money to buy anything. That's where there would be demand for more and more money. And the government also, to reduce inflation, they take certain measures. Okay, they would increase the interest rate sometimes, but then there are also chances that the measures taken would act in such a way that instead of decreasing the inflation, there are chances that it will increase the inflation further more. Okay, not only they would take decision regarding the interest rates, but sometimes what country does is, or the main institution or economic institution of country does is that they try to mint more and more money. Okay, that would also be a problem sometimes. Now, this is what economic stability and inflation means. But when you study IBE, what is important for you is to understand what it is and to know that for whichever country you plan to go and do business, economic stability in that particular economy is very much important for your company. That's all you need to know. But why it is important to write that, you will have to know what is economic stability and how is it linked with inflation. Okay? Okay. Now what happens is, with inflation, it is not only that there would be more demand for the money, but it does affects the exchange rate also. Yes, when it affects exchange rate, definitely those who are doing international business, it does affect them. Yes, does it? Why? Because with international business, it is not only one particular currency, but more than one currency would be involved. Fine? And what happens when there is inflation usually? See, now I said inflation, the exchange rate, it affects. But how does it affect? Knowing that is very much necessary, right? It affects, we know, but how? See, with inflation, what happens? The price increases. So imagine you have produced a goods. Yes. Now to sell it, you will be selling at a higher price. That is the case. So take into consideration your export and import. What happens? The exports start becoming costlier and the imports become cheaper. Why? Because of inflation, the price has increased, and because the price is increasing, exports become costlier. Okay? So what happens when the exports would be lesser than imports? There would be deficit balance of payment, which no country wants it in its BOP. Yes, so all these things are interlinked. So what I tell is that, you know, what is economic stability, what is inflation, and you'll have to know how it affects a company. Now, did you understand? You know what is economic stability now, right? What is inflation? You know. Usually in inflation, what happens? One is it affects interest rates. The second one is there is more demand for money. Okay? And the interest rates, usually the economic institution or the main economic institution. When it comes to India, it is RBI. They tend to manipulate it and they take measures in such a way that they try to bring down the inflation. Okay? Yes. Now, why is it important once again for us is, when it comes to international trade, all that we would be doing is exporting and importing. Yes, the more the inflation, the more costlier exporting becomes. That would be a demerit for the organization, whether be it in the home country or in the country which they want to start their business. Now, whether this is a little bit understandable, will you remember, or should I repeat it once again? You want me to repeat? Okay. Now, for each of the economy, they will be having their own main economic institution. As I said, for us, RBI. But consider entire globe as one. Now, there is also some institution, right, which takes care of this foreign exchange rate. In one of the classes, they had said, which institution is that? Yes, it is International Monetary Fund. They look after the stability of exchange rates. Okay, usually they look after the, you know, whatever differences are there in exchange rate, that they would be looking. And whenever there is financial crisis for any of the economies, they intervene and they help them. The next one is economic development. Now, what is the difference between economic stability and economic development? Okay. Now, you have heard regarding less developed countries, developing countries, and developed countries. Yes, that is there. Now, do you think, be it a developed country, developing, or less developed country, whether economic stability is necessary, or is it necessary only for the developing and less developed countries? My question is, economic stability, is it necessary for each and every economy or each and every country, or is it necessary only for developing and less developed countries? Yes. Now, economic stability, irrespective of whether it is developing or developed, economic stability is very much necessary. Okay. So, economic stability is entirely a different topic. Economic development is a entirely different concept. Now, as we spoke regarding economic development, usually earlier we were speaking like underdeveloped countries, developing countries, and developed countries. Now, usually, recently, they start differentiating it under only two heads. Those which have developed and the others are being called as less developed countries or LDCs. Okay. Yes. Now, we said under economic development, the countries are being differentiated as developed and less developed countries. Now, what do you think? Under what criteria or under what basis they tell that these countries are developed or less developed? How do they tell it? See, now uh, whether you are being promoted for second year or not, we would give you a exam. Those who ever score 35 and above would be considered as being promoted for next class. Yes, those who haven't will be in the same class usually. Now there should be, the criteria is, out of the entire marks you will have to get 35 and above. Now, even under economic development, to differentiate that a country is developed or to tell that it is less developed country, there should have been some certain criteria, right? So what might be that criteria? On what basis they might have done this differentiation? It is nothing but per capita income. How do you get per capita income? Yesterday we spoke regarding that. You have gross national income when you divide with number of people in the country, or when you divide it with the population, you will get per capita income. Yes? Okay. Now, per capita income is one indicator using which they decide which countries are developed, which are less developed. Okay? And because it is per capita income, definitely those countries which are in the category of developed countries, they would be having a high per capita income. Those countries which are being in the group of less developed countries, they will be having some lesser per capita income than that of developed countries. Now this is all regarding your economic development. Now from the point of view of manager, why is it important for you? With all this information, what will you do? What is the use of this information? Meaning is fine. Meaning you'll have to know. But what is the use? Why you have to study all these things? Why? What do you do with this information? It could be economic stability, economic development, or per capita income. Why? What happens with more per capita income or more income? People will have more money to spend. One is that from the point of view of customer, it is necessary because you will know whether people have enough money so that they can buy your goods or not. Yes. Now, your goods are divided on the basis of necessities, comforts, and luxuries. Yes, necessities are very much necessary. Whether money is there, not there, people will have to buy. And usually these goods would be produced from home country companies themselves. Yes, but when it comes for comforts and luxuries, yes, comforts are the ones which makes life easier. Maybe your washing machine, yes, maybe any other kitchen equipments that you use, or for that matter your for a medium range four-wheel vehicles. Yes, it helps you in your transportation. That makes life easier. That's why they are comfort. But what with the luxuries? Luxuries are the ones which are being enjoyed by the people who have more money with them to spend on. Yes. So now compare yourself as one such company which is into producing luxurious sports vehicles. Okay. Now imagine yourself that you were until now in maybe USA. Now you have planned for any of the less developed country. Could be anything. So what are the problems you might face? First of all, people would think whether it is necessary to buy it or not. Second, the infrastructure. Yes, if the country to which you would go, whether the infrastructure, especially that of the roads, isn't good, whether people would be ready to buy your goods. There might be some percentage of people who would buy, but that percentage will not bring in any kind of revenue for your company. Okay. Right now I am speaking by taking one example. You'll have to know it in general. Fine. That is why understanding all this is important. I am speaking only regarding the meaning. You will have to speak why is it important for a manager. All these things. Okay? Meaning nobody wants, right? You'll have to speak from your point of view. Anymore, be it any subject. It's not the meaning what you speak. What you'll have to speak is why is it important? Okay? When you speak regarding entrepreneurship and small business management, any topic that you choose, in the subject they would speak regarding the meaning or what are the uses. But when it comes for examination, you'll have to tell why is it important for a entrepreneur. Okay? In international business, you'll have to speak regarding why is it important for a international manager. Now, why is it that in international business we are speaking regarding managers, not regarding entrepreneurs? Why not? There might be companies which are owned by private people which does, international business. Usually it is that in the beginning of the class itself I have said, when we speak regarding international business, we would be speaking with the point of view that whatever firm we choose, it would be either a private limited company or a public limited company. From that point of view, we would be speaking. And usually with such companies, it is the manager who decides all these things. Yes, because with private limited company or public limited company, or especially speaking regarding public limited company, yes, the owners would be the equity shareholders. Yes, so there is a differentiation between the owner and the management. All these things would be done from the part of management. So we always speak regarding managers here. But with your entrepreneurship and small business, you will speak from the point of view of entrepreneur. Okay? And the subject does speak of small business also in particular. Fine? All those things you'll have to know. In ESB also it is there, right? They go do international business, not only in the country but they do outside also. Yes. Now the next one is infrastructure. Why do you think infrastructure is necessary? Okay. Maybe I have missed out the point. The next one is infrastructure. Why do you think infrastructure is necessary in understanding, you know, elements of economic environment? If you do not remember, all these topics comes under elements of economic environment. And we were speaking regarding the performance and the potential of different economies. And we were speaking how we would analyze the performance or potential. And while speaking all those things, all this might be GDP, gross national income, human development index, all those we spoke under that. We had started speaking in yesterday's class. There are chances that you might have forgotten. Yes? Chances are, can I be sure that you have forgotten? What is it? Yes. Now coming back to the topic, why do you think infrastructure is very much necessary? What are the things included under infrastructure, especially when we speak? It could be the roads, the transportation facilities, yes, buildings, okay, transportation and communication, buildings. When we tell all these things, whatever it is comes under that. When you tell transportation, it could be a road, railways, airways, waterways, everything comes, right? When you speak regarding communication, your internet facility, your telecom facility, television, media, everything comes. And buildings, anyhow, that would be developed. Okay, than building, it is transportation and telecommunication which would be of more important for a company, because any company that grows, it will have to build a building, right? Whether the country has it, country does not have it, when you go international, when you decide, you will have to either build or you will have to buy. You have no other option. That part the company will definitely do. But for us, what is important, what we cannot develop in a different countries, could be it transportation or it could be the telecommunication. Okay, now transportation, for that matter, vehicles you will can own, but the roads you cannot build, right? The railways you cannot build. Yes, the airport system you cannot build. You can rent a plane, but can you build an airport for your own company? So when you go international, it becomes very much necessary for a company to understand how well the infrastructure has developed in that particular company. Usually, what is the notation that is there? Developed countries will have high infrastructure facilities, while the less developed countries are having a little bit of lesser infrastructure facilities compared to that of developed nations. This particular point you'll have to remember. Any of the topic we tell, that we tell developed countries has more, less developed countries are having less. Now that we would be telling in comparison with that of developed countries. Okay. Otherwise, whichever country is there, all of a sudden they cannot, and there is no chance they can have all the facilities all at once. Step by step, it has to develop. Yes, but you would be comparing it with a developed country, and from that point of view, you would be telling. Fine. The next one is debt. What is debt, by the way? Here, debt of who? What is debt? Huh? Liability. Okay. What is debt? In very simple words, what is a debt? Forget all the debtors, liabilities, all those words you forget. Just tell me what is debt. Yes, debt is nothing but loan. Something you have taken from somebody else which does not belong to you. First is that character. The second one is after some time you will have to give it back. That is what we call as debt. Correct? The one who provides you the debt are called as debtors. Is it so? The one who gives the debt, what is he called as for you? Yes. The one who gives you the loan is called as creditor. I just checked whether you are sleeping or whether you are alive. Do not get confused. Debt is nothing but loan, but the one who gives loan is called as creditor. Okay? And to whom you have given loan, those would be called as debtors. Fine? Now, here we are speaking regarding the debt of the government. The government could have taken the debt from its own population, or there are chances that it can have taken from foreign organization or from foreign governments also. Okay. Now, why is it important knowing the debt of a country? Because the more the debt, it is said that the more uncertain would be the economic stability of a country. Okay. Now, you studied regarding economic stability. That is how debt is linked. The more and more the government has debt under its name, the more uncertain would be its economic stability. For that matter, India in the year 1991, it met with the debt crisis in such a way that it was unable to repay the loans that it had taken. There was so much of debt taken. For that matter, you can go right now and search what is the debt on each head in the country. You will get the information. It would be said as for each person, so much of debt would be there. For me, for you, for everyone. You can see it in terms of country as a whole or in terms of state also. And remember, when we speak regarding India, it is India is called a country, yes, and its different territories are called as states. But in America, what happens? America itself is as state. Their countries would be called as states. Okay, in that particular continent. So all these differences you will have to know. Now, debt we spoke. The next one is unemployment. What regarding unemployment you will have to know of a different economy? Yes. Why is it important? Now imagine uh, to country A you are planning to start your business. Now that particular economy is unemployment. Whether unemployment is there, not there, if it is there, to what extent it is there. Now you'll have to understand all this. See, unemployment speaks about how well a country can manage its human resource. Okay, and the more unemployment is there in a country, it is risky for a business to go and start business there. Okay, and when it comes to company, it is not only the unemployment, but their working age, population, and labor regulations also becomes very much important. Okay, that is all regarding your unemployment. Now, whether unemployment and underemployment are one and the same, this is out of the topic. It's just a question. Whether unemployment and underemployment are one and the same. So, what is the difference between unemployment and underemployment? Uh, Underemployment. No, you got confused. It is the way around. Okay. Unemployment is you'll not be having a job to work. Underemployment is you will be having a job, but to what potential you can work, those work you will not be getting. Some under potential work you would be getting. That to tell might be your skills are such that you can uh, you know bring up with the hardwares, and all of a computer, maybe. But when it is unemployment, you'll not get any job. With underemployment, maybe you would be just asked to repair the switch of the computer. That is underemployment. Okay. Now the next one is, this particular chapter undoubtedly is very much boring, and I am so very helpless. I cannot do anything but to tell what is there in the syllabus. The next one is education. Now, why education becomes important? Why? Now, why do you think so many of the IT companies are coming and starting their business here in India? Is it because of education? See, what education speaks is that when you go international, there are chances that what skills, what professionalism is necessary for your company, the same skills and professionalism can be bought in some other country for a lesser price than that of it is there in your home country. Okay? And to understand that, the level of education becomes important. Okay, from that point of view, they are telling that you will have to know what is the education level in the country to which you are planning to go and start your business. Now undoubtedly, so many of the companies are starting their business, especially IT here, because one, human resource is abundantly available here in Asian countries. Not only that, they are available in abundant. Because they are abundant, they are cheaper compared to that of some developed countries. And one more merit is that the skill and development, the skills that are necessary for that particular field, that is very much available here. Yes, those who work in that particular field, they are brilliant, aren't they? Yes. So now all these things comes in a, like, you'll have to answer randomly. All these things you cannot sit and buy it. There is no way you sit and buy it all these things. You'll just have to know things in general. Whenever they would be asking you any question, just write on whatever, not whatever comes to your brain. Write it in such a way that you'll link and you'll write. But do not skip any of the questions. Okay? You have 15 marks, two questions, if I'm not wrong, compulsorily to be attempted. Yes, one in section A, one in section C. Keep almost 1 hour, 20 minutes for that, or 40 minutes each for that. The rest, keep it 25 minutes. There is no way that you can skip any of the questions. Okay, and 16 lines, it will take less than 4 minutes to fill, provided you have read something. Otherwise, it takes a lot of time. Okay. Now, moving forward, the next one is productivity. What do you mean by productivity? Output. How should be the productivity be? Yes. Any country, it tries to reach productivity where efficiency is possible. Okay. Now, productivity is nothing but it refers to the amount of output that has been produced with the given amount of input. With lesser input, if you are able to produce more output, then it definitely tells that there is efficiency in the production. Okay. Now, why we have to understand this? Now, why is it important? Because it is the efficiency of productivity which brings in economies of scale. Remember, we spoke regarding economies of scale in the earlier sessions, or for matter in your business economics, you would have definitely spoken regarding economies of scale. Now, whenever you go and start a business, it is not only regarding the products or the inputs. When you tell inputs, your human resources are included. Okay, when you tell human resource, their skill, their education, all this comes together. It makes the efficiency of or efficient productivity. Okay, it is not, when you tell inputs, it is not just the resources that you are using, the I mean the basic resources what you want. When you tell inputs, everything that is necessary to produce will be included. Fine. The next one is balance of payment. This already I spoke. What is balance of payment? Yes. What is BOP? Balance of payment. What did I tell regarding BOP? Financial position of the company, of state. What did I tell? What is balance of payment? What makes up the balance of payment or BOP? You had this in some subject. Which subject was it? Not now. In your plus two, in your bachelor's, everywhere balance of payment was there. You did not tell me that in your first year MBA you did not have. What is balance of payment? Now, what does balance of payment do for that matter? It measures all the economic transaction of one country with that of another. Yes? Yes or no? To tell yes or no, you'll have to know what does that sentence mean. Now, economic transaction in the sense everything is included. What has been produced, what service has been given, what is the exports, what is the imports, all together makes up balance of payment. Yes, it is made of both the current accounts, which shows trade in goods and services, and also it includes capital accounts, which speaks regarding the financial transactions. Okay. Now, to understand all those things, you'll have to know what is the elements of BOP. This you had in your first or second semester. I cannot recall which subject it is, but go back and refer the elements of BOP. You'll understand it. Okay. Now it is the balance of payment which helps the international managers to select the location of supply for foreign markets and also the selection of markets. Okay, from that point of view, your balance of payment of a different country you will have to analyze and understand. Okay. The next one is economic risk. Under that you have two. The one is role of government. What is role of government under economic risk? How is there is economic risk because of government? Can anybody tell? Okay, Fine. Yes, all those things, all those risks which can arise due to government can be taken under role of government. Or for that matter, take into example our economy which is socialistic in nature. Okay, what happens in such economies? It would restrict all private entries. Yes, the private enterprises, it will have the capacity to do better. But because the economy is socialistic in nature, it will never accept private companies. That is one of the risk which arises due to the role of the government. Yes, you can give examples furthermore if you need. The next one is foreign investment in the economy. Now, how is it a risk, economic risk? Yes, until now we spoke regarding foreign investment is very necessary. It brings in global economies of scale. Now we are telling that foreign investment in the economy does have some kind of, what is it? What am I trying to tell? I'm usually like this, no? In the beginning, I tell something. After that, I would be doing the reverse of that. What is it? So, have you all started making point book? Yes. Now, foreign investment in the economy usually tells that attitude of the government towards foreign countries. Okay, the countries allow more and more foreign investment simply means that the economy is open for outsiders. That there are chances that you can go and invest in such countries. Okay, yes, or it would be vice versa of whatever I just said. Fine. Now, the next topic under your syllabus is world economic and trading situation. Now, before we go to that particular point, okay, now this particular thing I have taken from WTO report of September 2020. So it is a very recent one, right? Before 3 months. So what do you think? What is the trading situation today for this day in the month of December? Even before we start, you tell me in a general basis, what is the trading situation today, right now? The world trading situation I am speaking regarding. You're taking the entire globe into account, not one particular economy. What do you think? What is the trading situation? Is it in boom stage? Is it in decline stage? Right? Decline, is it definitely a decline? Did it fall slowly or did it drop all of a once? Why? What was the reason? There was no any economic crisis. Yes, definitely. If it was the same subject and you did not have COVID, whatever I would be telling under this topic would not be the same. Okay, because we faced this pandemic called as COVID-19, whatever we are speaking now, that exists. Fine. Now, this particular pandemic is the one which brought a halt for the economic growth after the financial crisis of 2008. Okay, once after the financial crisis of 2008 was started recovering, from that point onwards everything was under growth. Might not be a sudden growth, but continuously there was growth. Okay, and this growth of last 12 years was brought into halt because of the pandemic. Now, each of that has been given under the report of WTO, and I'll have to speak the same, nothing but what is there in the report. If it is boring, please do manage with it. Okay, there is nothing in general we can speak here. This is what has happened, and you'll have to speak what has happened. Fine, because the pandemic, it is not one country which was affected, it is not a group of countries which were interlinked that was affected. Each and every country in the economy has been affected because of this pandemic. What might happen in the future, we cannot predict at this particular moment. Okay, but what has happened up till this point we can speak. Remember the Great Depression of 1920s? Now that happened. Why did Great Depression of 1920 happen? What was the reason? When I spoke regarding your protectionism policy, your free trade, I have spoken. What caused the Great Depression? Yes, the main reason was the expenses of the World War. Okay, and the depression happened for the major countries which were involved in the World War, and the rest of the countries had to face it because their economies were interlinked with the ones which were into the war. Fine. After that, the next thing is the 2008 financial crisis. Back then you might have been in third or fourth standard in 2008. Okay, you might have heard so many of the people have lost job. In India, who were employed outside the country, they started coming back to country. Yes, that was the reason of financial crisis of 2008. What was the main reason? You are specific there. Financial crisis it was. What was the reason of 2008 financial crisis? Do you know the difference between debit card and credit card? What is the difference? What is the difference? Now forget whatever I said. Tell me what is the difference between a debit card and a credit card? The most common thing we'll have to know. Yes. Now with the debit card, what happens is that you can use only up till what amount you have. Okay, whatever is there in your account, more and more you use, your account goes on debiting it. Fine, from your account it would be debited. Under credit card, what happens is you take credit, I mean you take loan from somebody. Okay, and after certain point you will have to go on giving it back. Under financial crisis of 2008, one main thing was that people of, especially where did it happen, financial crisis of 2008, for which country did it happen? By the way, I had given some work in the last class. Who has done it? I asked what is the state of economy of North Korea and South Korea. Yes, what is North Korea? Capitalism. South Korea is socialism or dictatorship? Yes. So Yes, first decide where that person belongs to. Okay, do not get confused. Fine, always know it. It is your work to know. Okay, so today's work you'll go and see what caused the financial crisis of 2008. Now moving forward, let's say some of the main points of this trading situation. Okay, see, the first thing that itself they are telling, it is the pandemic which compressed the global trade by so magnitude which was seen during 2008 global financial crisis. The trade has dropped sharply in developing countries, though with difference between regions. While projection points to a limited recovery in 2021, there are questions about the long run climate for trade. That is what I said until now. Once after 2008 to this magnitude, if the world trade has dropped, it is because of pandemic. Now in the dropping there are difference between different region, but for every region the only thing is that it has dropped, and what can happen in the future we cannot tell. We can expect that in 2021 there might be some kind of recovery, but when it comes to the long run we can definitely not say what is going to happen. Okay, the next one is that the outbreak exacerbated an already subdued trade environment both globally and among developing countries. Okay, and WTO tells that yes, pandemic is the main reason it has dropped, but then even before pandemic the global trade was dropping because some of the issues, especially systematic issues, or because of slow economic growth, and mainly because of the protectionist policy that the countries were taking. Recently there was a reduction in total global trade, but with pandemic it went down very much steep. Okay, now these points you'll have to remember. I expect you write what has happened because of pandemic. That was the question I gave for your internals, right? If I remember, maybe not for your this internals, the internals of your marketing management and supply chain management. I know, I was the one who gave the question, right? Yes. The first one is collapse of global trade and the implications for developing region. What does that mean? Do not take down. This is the report. Okay? Report you cannot write in your own words. When I give handouts, read it from that and make it in short points and present if you want. Fine. The first one they are speaking in terms of collapse of global trade and the implication for developing regions. What has happened for developing countries? Okay. The first one was global trade in goods and services trembled in 2020. Yes or no? Yes? Definitely yes. Trembled in the sense nothing but it fell down. Remember there was one WhatsApp video where the vehicle was traveling in the mud road, a steep road, maybe it traveled, it came up till 2020, and 2020 it fell down. That was a meme, right? But that is the actual situation. See here. Now Q1 2009 is nothing but quarter 1 of 2009. Here there has been a reduction because of the financial crisis of 2008. After that, it has only risen. And here, this is what they were speaking for all from 2013, 14 or 53, that the growth is there, but it is very less. But see here what happened with quarter 2 of 2020. It has gone down in ways that was not even there in the scale. Okay, fine. Now, one more thing you observe, for every other year they have mentioned quarter 1 and quarter 4. What is quarter, by the way? It's the 1/4. So if quarter 1 represents Jan, Feb and March, here the next would mean quarter 2, this would quarter 3, this represents quarter 4. So for every 3 months once they are taking the report. Okay, and see here, for this particular, by the end of quarter 3rd of 2008 and the early 2009, there was reduction in growth. After that, it fell below the line only in 2020. Fine? You cannot buy his graph and draw in your answer. No chance at all. Now, what is there? I can tell here. See, by the way, what is this? What this chart is all about? Okay, it shows the merchandise trade volume from 2006 to 2020. Yes, don't give me that face anymore. You go and get job. This is what do. Computer, something would be there. You will do something else. Fine? Yes. Be prepared for your future also. 1 year you enjoyed like nobody else could have done it, and now it is time you start enjoying it a little bit less. Now see, international trade, there was a halt in the first half of 2020 because of coronavirus pandemic, and promoted what? Because of the lockdown this has happened. To curb the coronavirus, almost all the economies took the decision of locking itself down. Every other activity came to a halt. That's when trade was halted, right? Because of that, there was a downward in the graph. And because of lockdown, what had happened? It curtailed factory output, disrupted transportation, and depressed the demand. Okay, global merchandise trade shrank by 3% year on year in the first quarter of 2020, and according to the World Trade Organization, you can see it in the graph. This is the source, you can see it is from UNCTAD. What is the full form of that? United Nations, I too know. The next 4 words. Somebody had taken this particular topic for presentation. Where is that one particular person? Now I'll go back, I'll see who has taken this as a topic for their presentation. And if you do not answer me in another 1 minute, your attendance I will cancel for the day. What is UNCTAD? Fill in the blanks I shall start giving in next internals. Okay, now concentrate. Now compared with the preceding quarter, trade volume shrank by 2% in seasonally adjustment terms. Global services exports fell harder by 7.6%, year on year in the same period and contracted by 7.3% compared with the previous quarter in seasonally adjustment terms. Understood? Whatever I said earlier, that has been quantified and said. We said there is a fall. To what percent the fall is? Nothing but it is 7.3% from quarter to quarter. Okay. Now, initial estimates for the second quarter of 2020 by WTO points to a year-on-year plunge in global markets trade of approximately 18.5% as the virus and associated lockdown measures affect a great share of the world. Which is second quarter of 2020 when we sat at home? April, May and June. So that time there was a fall of 18.5%. Okay. And yes. Now, given the intensification and subsequent relaxation of social distancing measure and restriction on travel and transport in most countries during the second quarter of 2020, it is possible that trade may have recovered somewhat since then. Some indication of this can be seen in the increase in global commercial flights, including international air cargo and container ports throughout. Purchasing managers' indices have also started to recover. Now, all these things, whatever I said in brief, they are being specific here. Okay. They are telling the main reason why it fell down. They are telling what are the reasons because of which there has been increasing. Why did it fall? Because of lockdown measures. There was no any activity. Everyone had to sit at their home. Yes? But which is the one activity there was no any kind of halt? Is it so? Only transportation there was a halt. You sat at home, you studied. Was there any kind of stopping for that? Those who had to do work from home, they did their work. Was there any stoppage? We did eat for 3 months because we were at home. Were we hungry? Was it that we did not eat? So only transportation and the movement of people there was stoppage. Except for that, everything else was the same. At least we are alive. We can consider it, right? We sat at home, whatever the reason it is, I'm alive today. Yes, and me being alive doesn't, it does, cannot be compared with any amount of money. Me being alive is me being alive. Yes, that's why I sat at home. That's why instead of 67 here, there are 5 people. Yes, you accept, you do not accept it. That is the main reason. Yes, moving forward. Next one is trade fell sharply in developing countries, though with some heterogeneity. What do you mean by heterogeneity? Yes, earlier what did we tell? There is a fall in the total global trade, but one thing that is same is it is falling, but for different economies it is different. Here they are telling that trade fell sharply in developing countries, though with some heterogeneity. There are groups where it fell in the same way. Okay. Yes, fine. Now, just try to understand from what I tell. See that graph and try to understand it. Whatever I would be telling, look into the graph and try understanding it. Okay? You are not small children that I explain this graph. When I tell, look into that, understand it. Fine? Yes. Developing countries' exports in the first quarter fell 7%, while imports fell 2%. And South-South trade, when you tell South-South trade, what might be South-South trade? Whenever you hear the word South-South trade, it is nothing but trade between developing countries, okay, and that fell by 2%. Now decline in the trade quarter 1 of 2020 was followed by a deeper decline in April, and exports contracted 18% and imports dropped for 19%, while South-South trade fell in 14%. Now, all regions in the world observed decline in international trade in quarter 1 of 2020 and April 2020. That has been shown in this particular graph. Okay? Yes. Moving forward. However, trade in developing countries appears to have fallen faster in April relative to that of developed countries. In that, which is developed countries? Which is developing countries? Continue, continue. All this work you'll have to do what is called as homework, self-work. Okay? Yes. Now moving forward, the decline in the East Asia and the Pacific area remained in the single digit, unlike in that of other regions. A deep downturn in quarter 2 is expected among developing countries as data for April showed declines of up to 40%. For countries in South Asia and the Middle East. For instance, the impact of pandemic on trade in service was especially acute due to international and national travel restrictions. Now, nearly 90% of the world economy came under some form of lockdown measures by mid-April. Reflecting this service, exports fell 16.1% in Asia and Oceania and 10.4% in Latin America and the Caribbean in quarter 1 compared with the year ago. So I guess this had to be April 2019, not 2020. Okay. Now they are comparing. Okay. If this is more and this is less, so this represents quarter 1 of 2020. Fine. I do not know whether there can be mistake in the site of WTO or not. What is it? I'll check once again and I tell you all. Okay. Yes. Now it is the same. The entire thing is same. For another 2-3 days, you'll have to study this. Later on, you'll have something called as, okay. For this particular point, we shall stop it here today. Wait until I take down your attendance.